Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is HD Starcraft, and I'm here for Game 4 from the Team Story Cup between Team Millennium and Team Liquid. And it looks like Millennium is going to be throwing out their big guns here. It is time for 4GG, the formerly retired StarCraft Brood War Pro, who's now gone pro in StarCraft 2, to compete here and try to get a victory back against Team Liquid. The current score is, of course, 2-1, and that is in favor of Team Millennium thanks to Daishi's incredible start, taking out Zenio in the first game, and then proceeding onwards, and then finally getting knocked out by TvT in the last game, which really didn't come, I think, as too big of a surprise to anybody. But you know what, Zenio did pretty good in knocking out, Daishi did pretty good in knocking out Zenio and I think it was TLO. And now it is time for 4GG to step into his shoes. He is going to be the purple Terran player at the top left-hand corner of Star Station. His opponent is going to be, of course, one of the most feared Terran players today. It is LiquidTaeja, and it is going to be, nationality-wise, Korean versus Korean here. Very excited to see how this goes down. Of course, Team Millennium, I believe, is actually situated in France, and Liquid is situated in kind of like North America / Korea. But anyways, having said that, it is going to be an epic TvT here. Both of these players are extremely skilled, and I cannot wait to see how this game goes down. It looks like Taeja is going to be opening up with a barracks, and he's got a refinery coming down behind that as well. On the other side of the map, 4GG is adding on a barracks, and he's got a refinery coming down just a little bit later than his opponent. And Terran versus Terran is one of the most diverse, mirror matchups of all. You do see a lot of different opening strategies. You can see, you can actually see proxy racks in TvT. You can see early starport. You can see quick factory for Hellion play. Hellbats are now extremely popular in the late game for Terran versus Terran as well. They're just such a sturdy unit, and they're so cheap at only 100 minerals. So you can really see everything, even battle cruisers in the late game. So I'm not even going to try to predict what is going to happen this game. I'm just going to keep my eyes peeled here and see what happens. It looks like the very first blood is about to happen though, because this SCV is crossing paths with the Marine, but 4GG needs to keep up with it. And can he get the kill? No, he can't. Blood sprouting right there, spouting out of the back of the SCV, but it just actually jukes the Marine and runs back up the ramp. The Marine's like, wait a minute, I thought you were gonna go back home, but this SCV apparently is a daredevil. And the other SCV on the way back as well, taking quite a bit of damage. So both players unable to scout each other. You can see, no, sorry, 4GG was able to get inside Taeja's base. Taeja was unable to scout 4GG. But he still has that SCV at 9 HP. He might try a suicide run up the ramp here, but unfortunately for him, that does not bode well, as the Marines were just waiting to pick him off on the high ground. Now, though, the trenches have been raised, and it looks like we do have a factory with a command center coming for 4GG, which signals to me he wants to open up with a little bit of tech here. We'll see if he decides to add on a tech lab and go to Starport for Banshees, or if he decides to go into a second or third factory to play mech. Probably going to be seeing additional factories here because he does have this command center up, unless he wants to go for more of a delayed Banshee opening. Usually when players open Starport though, they can go for a command center first, but they recognize it delays their starport for some time, so it's hard to go for like a surprise Banshee if you have already added on a CC. Taeja, on the other hand, has opened up 111 very nicely. In fact, barracks, factory, starport right next to each other, no add-ons at all, which signals to me he wants to go for a medevac drop here, and I think he's going to try to drop Marines and Widow Mines and maybe a Hellion or two, depending if he decides to add on a couple Hellions here. And this is going to be his opening strategy, which is actually really strong. And I actually really like how Taeja is placing a couple of Widow Mines at the front door, just in case, if this drop, doesn't do a lot of damage, he'll still have mines at the front to protect him. Although it looks like he's picked up his mines now, so he might actually lift everything through, and yeah, he's going to bring his mines with him. So defense shamens, he's just going to go straight for the offense. and gonna try to get a big drop here into 4GG's main base. Now, the thing about Widow Mines in Terran versus Terran is if your opponent hasn't opened up with a Raven, which at this moment 4GG won't have one because he doesn't have a tech lab on the starport, then 4GG needs to have enough energy on the comsat, on the orbital commands for comsat. If he doesn't, these Widow Mines can do a little bit of damage, but thankfully mines do have a long cooldown period, so that does usually allow Terrans enough time to regenerate their energy for a comsat. But here comes TvT. He's going to drop the mine down first. The mine needs to get underground, but without drilling claws, it takes a little bit too long. And now 4GG going to bring additional reinforcements to try to stop TvT before he can drop additional forces. One mine did get underground here, but the rest of the Marines dropping through were all pretty much eliminated, and TvT's drop really isn't all that successful. In fact, the mine ends up getting roasted. And so 4GG here with a really good ult, to be honest with you guys. TvT not able to do any damage at all, and the 1-1-1 opening, usually you need to get some damage done because you delay your command center by opening with this aggressive starport style. And the fact of the matter is 4GG opened up with a command center earlier than TvT, and he's been able to hold off the aggression without any, any damage at all. You can see the supply differential now, 66 to 50. And here comes this line of Hellions. Apparently no one ever told them that fire is not effective against armor. So TvT probably not too worried about the Hellions there, but he should be worried about the possibility that they'll run by and go either into the natural or the main base. And in fact, it's exactly what 4GG is going to do. And TvT in a lot of trouble here. It looks like there was a drop going on in the back of his main base as well, so 4GG was trying to distract him. And the distraction is a success, excuse me. He has gone into the main base with a bunch of Hellions, but they are going to get surrounded here by the Marines on the ground from TvT, so a really nice defense there. And actually, really doesn't lose too many SCVs. Only 5 went down in that entire engagement. And that's considering the drop in the background and the Hellions that are running through the front door as well. And I think as a result, TvT actually evens up the game just a little bit. And I'm looking at the supply for the Harvesters here, and it is not looking good for our red Terran player from Team Liquid at all. His SCV count is suffering miserably, and it doesn't help that 4GG is adding on a macro command center now as well. So 4GG is really going to capitalize here, and I'm not sure what TvT is going to be able to do, but then again, he is TvT. He's one of the beastliest Terrans around. We do have a divergence in strategies, so TvT is going to be going... That Viking just met its poor demise, but TvT is going to be going bio here. You can see he's got stim, he's got combat shields, he's got +1 weapons. 4GG's adding on armories and more factories, so we are going to be seeing bio versus mech here. And, it's totally fine. Really interested to see what's going to happen here between the two different strategies. I do feel like with bio, I think TvT almost kind of forced to go down the bio route because mech is a little bit more expensive, and TvT right now is really suffering for resources, I feel like. So maybe he's pigeonholed a little bit, but it's not bad or anything like that. Bio still has its place, but I think in the late game, mech is superior to bio in Terran versus Terran just due to the raw amount of splash damage that mech can put out, especially now with Widow Mines and Hellbats. So I don't know if this is going to work too well for TvT unless he can do a lot of damage right now, and he does finish up +1 weapons during this attack. The mech doesn't have weapons yet, and this bio is actually going to do a little bit of damage inside the SCV line, but a PDD comes down, stopping some of the Marines and Marauders in their tracks. And now 4GG going to come out with the rest of his army and going to just roast up the retreating Marines and Marauders. And, TvT was able to get a little bit of damage done behind the expansion, but I don't know if that attack, at the end of the day was totally worth it. I'm looking at the resources lost here. It seems like 4GG may have lost a little bit more than TvT throughout the game. But in terms of the entire, like I said, in terms of just going into the late game in Terran versus Terran, I do feel like mech is superior to bio. So that is something that TvT is going to have to figure out, and that's not even including the fact that in the late game you can switch into battle cruisers which share armor upgrades with mech. Bio doesn't have that luxury. So this doesn't, I don't know, it's not looking too good for TvT. 4GG might just be able to tie up this series at 2-2, but we'll see. unless there's just some kind of colossal error on 4GG's part. But I'm really just astounded that you know, the level of play here in this Terran versus Terran. We're looking at two of possibly the best Terrans, you know, in the world. Two of the best, not the best, but two of the best. And 4GG is just doing a great job against TvT this game. He just needs to sit back, macro, you know, hold on to his lead and not make any mistakes. And I think he's going to be looking really good here. He's got the third down already, starting to mine. In fact, TvT has as well. One thing TvT is doing pretty good right now is he does have good map control, and that's one of the luxuries afforded by going bio. Usually, you're going to have more mobility, you're going to have better map control. A Terran player going mech might have to sit back a little bit more and turtle up. That's what we're seeing 4GG doing right now. And here comes 4GG with a couple of Hellions, actually trying to get a little bit of a sneak peek, but doesn't really see much. Ends up losing those Hellions. And here comes more Hellions from 4GG, thinking he can roast up these Marauders, but someone didn't tell him that Hellions are not that great against Marauders, but if you can switch them into Hellbats, then you're kind of seeing like super buff bio dude versus super buff mech bio dude, and I think Hellbats stand a better chance against Marauders than Hellions do. But here comes 4GG. He's coming in with a lot of Hellions. Look at this flamethrower rally, and it's just a Hadouken blast every time. And then the Marines and Marauders calling for SOS. They get evacuated into the medevacs, which probably not a bad idea considering those Hellions were about to just give them an inferno surrounding. And now 4GG is just pushing with his mech army. He does have +1 weapons. The bio for TvT currently at 1-1, so TvT a little bit classier in terms of upgrades, but I don't know if that's going to help, especially with PDD coming down here, gonna shut down these Marines and Marauders for a little bit. And I think 4GG just has so many tanks in the background, he should be able to outsiege his opponent. It's a complete wasteland here in the middle between both sides, a complete debris field. But 4GG, I think, is going to have a few more tanks. He's got 7 compared to 3. So in the complete apocalypse between these two players, 4GG coming ahead not only on the ground but also in the air. And that is going to look really good for Team Millennium. He's even going to be able to force the cancellation on the command center that was constructing, and now reinforcements will continue to pile in to enforce the new Terran frontal position. TvT is in a lot of trouble right now, ladies and gentlemen. You know, on one hand he has less tanks, on the other hand he doesn't have air supremacy, so how can he utilize the maximum range that siege tanks have? You know, 4GG on the other hand, he can. And TvT is just right now trying to hold the trench right now with as many tanks as he can possibly muster, but it's looking incredibly bleak for the red Terran player. And now we even have a Banshee being produced from 4GG, which, you know, in these tank warfare, sometimes just throwing in a couple Banshees when you have air supremacy already, it can be the tipping point, because hey, you could just snipe off tanks really easily. So once that Banshee comes in, I think 4GG is going to commit to an attack, and I'm not sure what TvT can do here. I mean, I do like how he has some tanks, some more. He's just continuing to produce tanks as much as he can, and I'm looking at the units tab right now. He's still behind in the tank count. He's in fact got half the tanks that 4GG has, but you know, he's not giving up yet, and I've seen TvT come out of worse situations, so we'll see what happens. But there is a Hellion strike squad coming around the right-hand side of the map here, looking to do a little bit of back damage. And this is certainly going to split TvT's attention, but TvT's going to go for an attack here, gonna try to break the contain of 4GG, sending everything down the middle, but he just lost a ton of SCVs. But it looks like he breaks the contain of 4GG. TvT breaks the contain of 4GG. Incredible play right there. And, I mean, he loses a ton of workers, but I think that's okay considering he just broke. Yeah, I mean, he busted through twice the number of tanks, a PDD, and a bunch of Vikings, and I think there was a Banshee there as well. And TvT was able to bust through. I mean, just an incredible showcase of micro right there. A great executive decision. I mean, it did come at the cost of, you know, a lot of SCVs, but I think it's a worthy trade. Otherwise, he would have just been starved out by 4GG's contains. So TvT fighting his way back here, but is it enough? Is it enough? I don't know. 4GG has another expansion coming down. In fact, he's double expanding. And, you know, back at home, his army continues to amass. And it is possible that TvT has found himself you know, dug himself into a little bit too deep of a hole to crawl out of at this point. I'm looking at the supplies, 174 to 117. He does have the capital Thor on the field though, so you know, Thor's always nice. In a way, I feel like a Thor is like 2 or 3 tanks in of itself, but you know, is it enough? I don't know, probably not, but we'll see what happens. 4GG does have a lot of tanks and Hellions. My god, this army is just massive. And he is on 5 bases right now. I mean, I do like how TvT is expanding still. He is going up for a 4th base, but I really think what TvT needs to do right now is... It's hard to say. Should he be offensive? Should he be defensive? It really is hard to say, because if he tries to drop with a couple of units here or there, it's very likely he could get overwhelmed by 4GG's army on one of his new bases. So it's almost like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Does he defend his new expansion or does he attack? And if he plays too defensively, then 4GG is just gonna go wild with the expansions, as you guys can see right here. Now I like what TvT is doing here. He should try to drop right here on the top with the tank. Unfortunately, he didn't bring a siege tank with him, and in the meantime, oh my god, 4GG comes in with this Inferno Squadron, and this army is just so large, it's almost like a Zerg attack, and I think TvT has to GG. So 4GG takes the victory here. I did not expect that, but now Team Liquid might have to throw up their other big guns player, which would be Liquid Hero, unless they want to use a revive on TvT. So this is going to be really cool to see who plays next. The series is currently tied at 2-2, and I do apologize. I think I said in the beginning of the series it was going to be a best of 5. I don't think it's a best of 5. I think it's going to be a little bit longer than that. So strap yourselves in, guys. There's going to be more games to come. Game 5 is coming out next. Incredible matchup between TvT and 4GG. Hope you guys enjoyed. This is HD, and I am signing out.